Hi, hello, welcome. We are going to continue our conversation today talking about ways to avoid losing points on our paper assignments in the College of Nursing by talking about how to format a reference page. This is very important, probably one of the more important elements of APA formatting because it's giving credit to people who had original ideas, created evidence that we can use in our practice, and giving them credit for that work in their words. Without doing this, we risk claims of plagiarism or academic misconduct, which have some serious consequences both for students and practicing professionals as well. So this is definitely a good practice to get into. Probably one of the more painstaking processes that students tell me about is the time they put into formatting their reference pages. But with a little bit of practice and using some of the tools we're going to talk about today, hopefully that becomes less and less painful the more that you do it. So let's see what we're going to talk about. First, we're going to make sure that you have the correct heading on your reference page. I'm going to show you how to format a hanging indent, which is required by APA formatting. And then we're going to run through two different examples. One is a journal article. I will show you the article I pulled from the library and how to write that citation. And then I'll do the same thing for a website that I pulled, and we will go through those together. Again, like in my other videos, all of this information I'm talking about is available in the actual paper book that you received at orientation, that guidebook, but also at apastyle.apa.org. This is the APA's website that contains all the same information as in your guidebook. Once you're on that website, click at the top where it says Style and Grammar Guidelines, and then click on references, and you'll see the screenshot that I have listed below there on the slide. And based on that, you can see pretty much every kind of example that you would have or ever need to include in your papers. So these are your resources. Find a way to remember how to reference these, bookmark them, stick them on your desktop, something, so that you can get back to there and avoid losing points on your references. So without further ado, let's go to, well, actually, let's go here first. Sorry about that. Okay, so this hopefully looks a little bit familiar if you were with me on my first video where we talked about just general formatting guidelines and setting those default settings. This is our standard title page. Pretend that there's the academic honesty statement here at the bottom of the page, but we're going to pretend that we're just going right from title page to our reference page, okay? I do have a separate video on headings that you can refer to as far as knowing what kind of headings go where, or how to determine what level heading you have. But spoiler alert, first we're going to talk about the level 1 heading here for your reference page, which means is that it's centered and in bold. Okay, and very simply, you're just going to write the word references. You would not believe the range of different things that I see written on this page from different students. Don't get into any bad habits. It's very simply just what it is. It's just references. And then you just enter down to the next line. You don't need to put any extra spaces before your first citation, but you do need to switch over to the left side where your text will start, and we got to get rid of that bold. Okay, so let's start with our journal. Okay, so I'm going to go to the internet here and show you this journal article. So I just went to the UWM Library's website and did search at UW and searched for something along the lines of why should I be a nurse, all right? And I found this article that I thought might be interesting, and in my imaginary paper that I haven't written, will use it, and I will use paraphrasing and or quotes or statistics, whatever it has in here that I find is applicable to my topic in my paper. So you don't want to include anything on your reference page that is not paraphrased or quoted in the body of your paper. Okay, so if it's on the reference page, I should be able to find some kind of in-text citation referencing this source in the body of your paper. All right, so for a journal article, Actually, going to back up for 1 second. Sorry about that. Real quick, there are 4 main elements that you want to have on your reference citations. Any kind of citation, no matter what it is. The first one is the author, right? So who created these ideas, these words, this data, and that can be either an individual, a group of individuals that you name specifically, or an organization like the American Nurses Association or the World Health Organization, the Center for Disease Control. Those can all be authors who have work attributed to them. Every citation is also going to include a date of some kind about when this information was made available to the general public. Sometimes, especially in our electronic age, there's a lot of websites that just don't have that date available to us, which isn't the end of the world, but we don't want to just forget about the date and don't mention it. So what you're going to do in those examples is put the initials N and D for no date. Okay, and I'll show you what that looks like when we're writing our citations. Also, every single citation that you write is going to have a title. So what's the name of this source? And then what is the source of the source, right? So where can I retrieve this work, right? And the theory behind all these 4 elements being in your citation is that someone reading your work, whether it's your instructor or further down the line, if you go on to write dissertations or publish information, someone reading that should be able to go back and look at those original sources themselves if they want to read more about that specific area of your topic or look at that data set in more detail, something like that. Okay, so no matter what kind of source you're citing, whether it's a website, a book, a journal article, a presentation, what have you, they're all going to contain those 4 elements, but they all just look just a little bit different beyond that. Okay, so let's get started with our journal article here. So you can see I found this article from the Journal of Advanced Nursing from 2012, so it's a little bit on the older side, but for purposes of this activity, I'm not going to worry about that too much. So let's get started with our authors here. You can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4 authors. And just so that I don't have to type all this out, I'm just going to copy it and paste it just like that. And then I'm going to start editing it. Okay, so you don't need everybody's full name. On the citation. Last name, and then first and middle initial if it's available. You will list every author that's available for a source on the reference page citation up to 20 authors. Okay, if you have more than 20 authors, which does happen, there are guidelines for that, and I'll refer you back to the website or your guidebook to figure out how to reference that. And then this we're just going to change to C. Okay, so you can see we have our 4 authors, last name, comma, first initial, period. I don't have middle initials for any of these authors, so it's just that. Comma separating each author's name, and then before the final author's name, I have that ampersand or the and sign. Please don't write the word and. That's not what APA asks for. We're looking for this actual ampersand. Okay, and then after that, we're going to write the date in parentheses. So let's go back to our article here, and I see that this is from 2012. Okay. So in my citation now, I'm going to write 2012. I'm going to try to anyways. And then put a period after that, parentheses. Now this, where it says 2012, this is where you would write N period, D period, if we didn't know when this was published. Journal articles always will have a year associated with them because they're very specifically published. Websites sometimes don't. So with a journal article, we're always going to have it, and in this case, it's 2012. Okay. After that, we're going to put the title of our article. Okay, so the title of the article you're going to write in what they call sentence case. So again, just so you don't have to watch me pretend to type this. It doesn't want to let me. Nope, doesn't want to let me. Okay, so you're going to watch me pretend to type this. So why did I become a nurse? Oops, let's space this button. And then the second part of the title, personality traits and reasons for entering nursing. I think that's what it was. And reasons for entering nursing, yeah. So title case, or I'm sorry, sentence case is exactly what it sounds like. You're going to capitalize the words that you would in any ordinary sentence. This is not a proper noun. This is not a name. You just capitalize what you would in a regular sentence. So that means the first letter is capitalized. Of course, I capitalized I, because we always do. This P comes after a punctuation marks, right? So after that question mark, so I did capitalize that, but nothing else needs to be capitalized in this journal article title. Okay. All right, so we're like halfway through here. So next we have to figure out what journal did this come from, right? We have our author, our date, the title of the source. Now, what's the source of the source? And this is where we see here, the Journal of Advanced Nursing. Now, this is where the font starts to change and it gets a little bit confusing. So now we want to write in italics and write the Journal of Advanced Nursing. Now, you might notice that this is not in sentence case, right? I did capitalize every major word in this title. That is different from the journal article title. Okay, so journal article title, sentence case, journal title, title case. All right, so after the title, we're going to put a comma, and then we're looking for the volume and issue number, which is usually pretty clearly specified here, right? We don't need this VOL number. We're just going to write 68 for the volume and then 7 for the issue number. So the 68 for the volume number is going to stay in italics. Right after we write the volume number is where we write the issue number in parentheses, which is not in italics. I wish I could explain to you why this is this way. I don't have a great reason, but if anyone finds out a reason, if you could let me know, I'd love that. All right, so the italics end with the volume number. After the issue number, which is that number 7 in parentheses there, we're going to put a comma, and then we're going to put the page numbers if we know it. Not all articles, especially if you access them online, will have a page number known, but a lot of times, especially a journal article or a book, will have pages with them. So we're going to put these page numbers down for that in the citation because we have it available to us. So we're going to put P period 1546 to 1555. And then we will end that with a period. And then whenever possible, we want to be able to link or access that information right from this because more often than not, we're reading this electronically. So this is where you would look for the DOI number or maybe even a website where you can access it. Sometimes you can find that in the library website or whatever you're using, whatever database to access the article by just clicking the citation button, and it'll give you the actual citation of what we're doing. And you can see it looks just like ours, right? So they have the actual DOI number here. So I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to paste that in mine because I want that too. Okay? That is your reference citation for a journal article. The only thing we have left to do is to create a hanging indent here. So you can see here, everything is left justified, meaning everything starts on the left-hand side of the paper on our 1-inch margin. But APA wants it to look a little bit different so that we can read it a little bit more easily. And to do that, there's a few different ways, but what I usually do is I click, this is your spacing button. So you can click on this downward arrow next to the spacing button, or you can click on this corner arrow to get at the paragraph. Either one will get you to the same place. Now a hanging indent is a special indent So you click over here and click hanging, click OK, and it has created that indent for you. So no worrying about tabbing. Is everything line up the way it needs to? It does it right for you. Okay, so that is one reference done. Whew, right? Okay, we did good there. So now we want to do, my final example is this web page, and you're going to see it looks just a little bit different. This is an article I found. I just went out and Googled, why should I become a nurse? And I found this article by Indeed, which is a reputable organization for not just nursing necessarily, but just anyone, job seekers, professionals. And their editorial team created this article about things you should think about when you're becoming a nurse. And I think that this might be applicable to my paper and my topic. So I'm going to include a citation from this within my paper, and then I'm going to include the full citation on that reference page. Okay, now this is going to look fairly similar, except we don't have some of the same information. So let's start with what we do have, and that's the author. This very clearly tells us it is by the Indeed editorial team. Okay, you will see very often actually when you look at a website, at an article on their page, or maybe just a page on their website, it's not going to list a specific person that wrote that information. That doesn't mean that there's no author. That means you should attribute that source to the organization that created the website, right? Some entity within that organization created that information, and so we need to credit the organization with that creation, okay? So if this line were not here, I would just write Indeed as my author. But since I have this, let's start our next citation. I'm going to write Indeed editorial team, right? And then we need to look at the year. Now you can see a couple of different dates here. We see a published date and an updated date. Now the published date is great. That's when it became known to the general public, but it was updated just earlier this year, and so there might be new information here that wasn't in the original version that was published last year in 2021. And so we want to include the updated date as our date of being published, and we want to be as specific as possible when we write that. Okay, so in parentheses, oops, April 4th. Okay, so in period. In parentheses, we're going to write April 4th, 2022, and then end that with a period. All right. Now the next part is we want to write the name of the website, or I'm sorry, the web page. So this particular page is called Should You Become a Nurse? 9 Factors to Consider. It is the article name. So we're going to write that, and that again is going to be in sentence case. So the smaller entity, so the article or the web page within a website is going to be sentence case. So I'm going to write, should you become a nurse? 9 factors to consider, period. Okay, so you see I just capitalized this first letter. In true APA fashion, this number 9 wouldn't be a true number, but that's the way it's written in the title, so I'm going to keep it true to that source. And now what we're going to do is we would name the website in the citation if they were not the creator of this piece, right? So say, John Doe was the person who actually wrote this article on the Indeed website. John Doe would be credited as the author, and then after the website web page title, we would write Indeed.com as the web page. But because Indeed is the author, we're not going to repeat that information again. So all we're going to do next is just copy that URL or that web link and paste that in our citation. And you can see it already defaulted to that hanging indent because that's what I did on this other thing here. Okay. The last thing I'll call out is that you'll see that, sometimes you'll have even several pages worth of references, and it's important that they're organized according to APA citation formatting as well, and that means alphabetically. Okay, so usually if it's just one source per author, it's not that complicated. Everyone knows their ABCs. It gets a little bit more complicated when you have multiple sources from the same author, say from the American Nurses Association. Right, when you're using more than one source from them, getting them organized into the right order can be a little bit confusing. And for those guidelines, I'm going to refer you to the APA style website or into your guidebook for those guidelines. All right, so hopefully this helped. Hopefully you understand the elements that go in here and how to find some of these special formatting tools for your reference pages. Use that APA style website for any questions as well as your guidebook. And yeah, the instructor is always available for assistance as well. We'd rather you give credit to authors correctly and accurately rather than not giving them credit or inaccurately and avoiding things like academic misconduct. So on that cheery note, I will say have a great day. Thanks for listening.